In the vast expanse of the galaxy's outer rim, where dying stars cast their final light across forgotten worlds, silence had reigned for millennia. The HFY hegemony, masters of 1,000 conquered systems, had grown comfortable in their supremacy, their crystalline vessels carved through space like silver daggers carrying the weight of inevitable dominion. But comfort, as any conqueror learns too late, breeds blindness. High Commander Zephyr stood before the holographic displays of the Crimson Orthodoxy, her primary arms folded behind her elongated torso while her secondary limbs danced across the control interfaces. Her species, the HFY, had evolved from apex predators on a world where survival meant perfection. Forearms, enhanced cognitive matrices, and an instinctive understanding of tactical warfare had made them the galaxy's most feared military force. Today, however, something unusual demanded her attention. "Report," she commanded, her voice carrying the harmonic undertones that marked her rank among the hegemony's elite. Tactical analyst Morthek's mandibles clicked nervously as he manipulated the star charts. "High Commander, our deep space reconnaissance drones have identified a system in Sector 7749, third planet from a yellow dwarf star. The readings are peculiar." "Elaborate?" Zephyr ordered, her primary eyes narrowing while her secondary pair remained fixed on the tactical readouts. "Life signs are abundant, but organized. We detect tool usage, basic agriculture, and what appears to be early metallurgy in scattered locations. The species shows signs of intelligence, but they're using flint and bronze. High Commander. Stone axes and crude spears." The hologram shifted, revealing a blue-green marble suspended in the void. Earth, though the HFY had not yet bothered to learn its name, rotated slowly, its continental masses drifting across oceans that sparkled like scattered jewels. "Threat assessment?" she asked, though the question felt almost insulting to pose. A sound escaped Zephyr's throat, something between amusement and dismissal. The HFY had been spacefaring for over 50,000 years. Their weapons could shatter planets, their cities spanned entire continents, and their technology bordered on the mystic, a species still chipping rocks together, barely registered as worthy of documentation. 0.01%. High Commander. We classify them as subdevelopmental Phase 1. Their largest settlements house perhaps a few thousand individuals, no unified planetary government, no long-range communication systems, no aerospace capability. They won't achieve interplanetary flight for at least another 10,000 years if ever. Deploy observation posts Delta 7 to the outer system, she decided. Standard monitoring protocols. We'll catalog their development for the cultural archives and move on. Yet something nagged at her. Zephyr's gaze lingered on the slowly rotating planet. In the depths of space, such worlds were common. Garden worlds teeming with life that would never amount to anything significant. The galaxy was vast, and most species never evolved beyond their cradle worlds. These, humans, would likely follow the same path to irrelevance. High Commander. Morthek hesitated. With respect, is an observation post necessary? Our resources might be better allocated to the Jekmar campaign in the Endorian cluster. Analyst Morthek. In my experience, overlooked details have a tendency to become oversight failures. We observe, we document, we understand. Even if these primitives never venture beyond their own atmosphere, their biological and cultural patterns may prove useful for future xenological studies. Zephyr's secondary arms ceased their movement across the controls. When she spoke, her voice carried the cold precision that had earned her command of the hegemony's Third Fleet. Understood, High Commander. Deploy the post, analyst, silent observation only. Do not interfere with their natural development. The truth was more complex than she cared to admit. Something about the orbital imagery troubled her. The primitive settlements showed an unusual degree of organization. Their crude agricultural systems demonstrated efficiency that seemed advanced for such a technologically backward species, but she pushed the concern aside. Experience had taught her that pattern recognition sometimes created connections where none existed. As Morthek bent to his tasks, Zephyr found herself studying the planet's surface through the enhanced imaging systems. Scattered across the continents, she could see the faint heat signatures of human settlements. Campfires flickered like tiny stars, while groups of bipedal figures moved in patterns that suggested hunting parties and agricultural work. She turned away from the display, her mind already shifting to more pressing concerns. The Jecumar had been proving troublesome in their resistance to hegemony expansion, and their bioweapon research posed a genuine threat to Cat-Fairy interests. These Stone Age creatures on the blue world could wait. Primitive? Harmless? Irrelevant? Marcus Blackthorne knelt beside the river, his weathered hands cupped around the clear water. At 32 years of age, he commanded the respect of 3 allied tribes through a combination of tactical brilliance and an almost supernatural ability to read the intentions of both man and beast. The scars across his arms and torso told stories of battles won against impossible odds, while his eyes, sharp and calculating, held the accumulated wisdom of a leader who had never known defeat. Time would prove this decision to be the greatest strategic error in galactic history. On the surface of the world, the Kethavari had designated as Catalog Entry 72749 Key. A different kind of intelligence was stirring. Around him, the settlement of Ironwood thrived. Unlike the scattered, nomadic groups that dominated much of the continent, Marcus had forged something unprecedented. A confederation of tribes united under common purpose. Their wooden palisades protected nearly 4,000 souls, while their agricultural terraces produced surplus food that supported specialized craftsmen and warriors. But Marcus Blackthorne's true genius lay not in what he had built, but in what he suspected. "Chief," came a voice from behind him. Marcus turned to see Elena Voss approaching, her hunter's gear still bloodied from the morning's expedition. Elena possessed a gift that the tribes whispered about in hushed tones, an ability to sense danger before it materialized, to read the intentions of prey and predator alike. More than once her warnings had saved hunting parties from ambush or natural disaster. Elena's dark eyes swept the sky, her expression troubled. "Something watches us. What troubles you?" Marcus asked, rising to his feet. 3 days. Maybe 4? It's not natural, not animal, not weather, not tribal. Elena's fingers drummed against her weapon belt, a nervous habit that had saved her life more times than she could count. "It feels like we're insects under observation, like something vast and intelligent is studying our movements." For most leaders, such a statement would have demanded clarification, evidence, or logical explanation. Marcus Blackthorne simply nodded. "How long?" Marcus followed her gaze upward, where the autumn sky stretched clear and blue above the settlement. For months he had been experiencing what he could only describe as wrongness, a persistent sense that their world was changing in ways beyond human understanding. Dreams had come to him of silver lights in the darkness, of voices speaking in harmonies no human throat could produce. "Gather the circle," he commanded. "We need to discuss preparation protocols." He had learned to trust such instincts. Elena's eyebrows rose. The circle, Marcus's inner council of tribal leaders and specialists, met only during crises or major strategic decisions. To call them based on intuition and suspicion would seem paranoid to most leaders. Marcus Blackthorne was not most leaders. Within the hour, 7 individuals sat around the central fire pit of the settlement's great hall. Each represented a different aspect of their confederation's strength. Elena for reconnaissance and hunting, Old Henrik for agricultural innovation, Davos the smith for metalworking and weapons, Sarah Goldwood for healing and biological knowledge, Thomas Ironwill for military strategy, Maria Brightwater for intertribal diplomacy, and Kieran the Young for what the tribes called sky knowledge. The ability to read weather patterns, celestial movements, and seasonal changes with uncanny accuracy. Murmurs of acknowledgement rippled around the circle. For weeks, sharp-eyed members of the Confederation had reported unusual celestial phenomena. Lights that appeared and disappeared without correlation to known stars or planets, movements that suggested intelligence rather than natural celestial mechanics. "We face a threat we cannot yet understand," Marcus began, his voice carrying the authority that had united fractious tribes under a single banner. "Elena has sensed observation. I have felt wrongness in the natural order. We must assume that our world is no longer hidden from forces beyond our current comprehension." Davos leaned forward, his scarred hands clasped around a cup of pine needle tea. You speak of the starlights, Chief, the ones that move against the sky's natural patterns. If we are being watched, Thomas Ironwill spoke with the measured cadence of a career warrior, then we must assume hostile intent until proven otherwise. Unknown observers rarely bring gifts. Marcus stood, moving to the great hall's central window where the afternoon sun streamed through carefully crafted openings. The settlement spread below him. Children playing between workshops where artisans crafted tools and weapons that had never been seen before in the known world. Farmers tending crops arranged in patterns that maximized yield beyond anything their ancestors had achieved, and warriors training with tactics that blended individual excellence with unprecedented group coordination. Sarah Goldwood nodded, her healer's instincts aligning with military pragmatism. The question becomes, what kind of threat? Natural disaster? Rival confederation? Or… She hesitated, then pushed forward with the thought that had been haunting them all. Something beyond our current understanding of the world? We must operate under the assumption that we are facing intelligence, Marcus decided. Intelligence that may possess capabilities beyond our current understanding. This means we prepare for scenarios that have never been encountered by human beings. The Ironwood Confederation was not merely advanced for its time period, it was something entirely new in human development. Kieran the Young raised his hand, a gesture of respect in their council protocols. Chief, if the starlights represent visitors from beyond our world, what could they want from us? We have little of value to beings who can cross the sky itself. The question hung in the air like smoke from the central fire. Marcus turned back to face the circle, his expression grave. Elena's hand instinctively moved to her hunting knife. Then we fight. Perhaps they want nothing from us. Perhaps they see us as we might see an ant colony. Interesting, but ultimately insignificant. Or perhaps, his voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more weight than a shout, perhaps they see us as a threat to be eliminated before we can become something more dangerous. If necessary, Marcus agreed. But first, we prepare. We assume they underestimate us. We assume they believe us to be primitive and harmless, and we use that assumption to our advantage. Old Hendrik coughed, then spoke with the wisdom of 7 decades. What you propose, Chief, is to allow our enemies to believe they hold all the advantages while we secretly prepare for war against forces we cannot yet comprehend. That's either brilliant strategic thinking or complete madness. Marcus Blackthorn's scarred face split into a grin that had terrified his enemies for over a decade. Henrik, those two things have never been mutually exclusive. Station Commander Velthar reviewed the daily reports with the mechanical precision that had earned her assignment to deep space monitoring duty. For the Cathvari military hierarchy, observation post commands represented either punishment assignments for officers who had fallen from favor or training positions for junior commanders gaining experience before more significant postings. In the cold vacuum of space, Observation Post Delta 7 maintained its silent vigil. The station, no larger than a Cathvari transport shuttle, hung in the shadow of the system's largest gas giant, its sensors focused on the blue-green world that rotated slowly in the habitable zone. Velthar fell into the latter category, though she was beginning to suspect her superiors might reconsider that classification. Another anomaly report, Commander, announced her sensor operator, a young Cathavari named Kixmil, whose enthusiasm for xenological studies had made him volunteer for observation duty. Define anomaly, Velthar replied, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Interesting but not alarming. Many species experienced brief periods of accelerated development before stagnating or collapsing into more primitive social structures. The primitive settlements are demonstrating organizational patterns that exceed baseline projections for subdevelopmental Phase 1 civilizations. Specifically, the large settlement in Continental Zone 3 shows evidence of centralized agricultural planning, specialized labor divisions, and what appears to be coordinated military training. Velthar's mandibles clicked with annoyance. For the past several weeks, the humans had been displaying behavior patterns that didn't align with standard developmental models. Primitive civilizations were supposed to be chaotic, tribal, and focused primarily on survival. These humans were building something that resembled early state-level organization. Any evidence of metallurgy beyond bronze working, she asked. then they remain within acceptable parameters. Continue monitoring and compile reports for monthly transmission to Fleet Command. Negative, Commander. Still detecting primarily stone, bone, and basic metal tools. No evidence of complex chemistry, organized mathematics, or astronomical knowledge. Still, they threw rocks and used wooden spears. They built fires for warmth and cooked their food over open flames. By every measurable standard, they remained firmly locked in primitive developmental phases. But even as she gave the order, Velthar found herself troubled by details that refused to fit established patterns. The humans' agricultural arrangements showed mathematical precision that suggested understanding of complex geometric principles. Their settlement layouts demonstrated defensive sophistication that implied knowledge of siege warfare and coordinated assault tactics. And their population movements indicated communication and coordination capabilities that should have been impossible without technological infrastructure. Velthar pushed her concerns aside. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless minor variations on familiar themes. These humans would follow the standard pattern: brief advancement followed by technological stagnation, environmental catastrophe, or social collapse. Observation Post Delta 7 would document their rise and fall for the hegemony's cultural archives, and her own career would benefit from the thorough documentation of yet another primitive species. As the sun set over the Ironwood Confederation, casting long shadows across the settlement's defensive walls, Marcus Blackthorne stood alone on the highest watchtower. The day's council had ended with unanimous agreement on a course of action that would have seemed impossible to any outside observer. They would prepare for war against an enemy they could not see, using tactics designed for opponents whose capabilities they could only guess at, while maintaining the appearance of primitive ignorance that might be their only strategic advantage. She had no way of knowing that 300 kilometers below her station, in the settlement the humans called Ironwood, a council of war was planning for scenarios that her species' own strategic doctrines had never contemplated. In the distance, campfires flickered to life across the settlement. Families gathered for evening meals, children listened to stories from tribal elders, and craftsmen worked late into the night on projects that would have puzzled any conventional observer. To an alien intelligence watching from space, Ironwood would appear to be exactly what it seemed: a large but primitive settlement of Stone Age humans going about their simple daily routines. The reality was more complex. Hidden beneath workshops and granaries, smiths worked by carefully shielded firelight to forge weapons and tools that pushed the boundaries of Bronze Age technology. Agricultural specialists developed crops and preservation techniques that could support a population far larger than the settlement's current size. And in converted storage areas that appeared to house simple grain supplies, warriors trained with tactics that blended individual combat excellence with group coordination strategies that wouldn't be formally codified by military theorists for thousands of years. But he knew they were there, watching, waiting, judging. Marcus raised his eyes to the stars, searching for any sign of the watchers Elena had sensed. The autumn sky revealed nothing unusual. Familiar constellations wheeled overhead in their eternal patterns, while the moon cast silver light across the settlement's wooden palisades. And inevitably underestimating. The first phase of humanity's greatest test was about to begin. Marcus Blackthorne smiled in the darkness. As if responding to his thoughts, a new star appeared in the constellation his people called the Hunter's Belt. It flickered once, then held steady, a light where no light should be. Elena was right, he whispered to the night wind. Something watches us. They would learn their error soon enough. He turned and descended the watchtower steps, his mind already racing ahead to tomorrow's preparations. Behind him, the false star continued its silent vigil, its alien occupants convinced they observed nothing more threatening than primitive humans playing with rocks and sticks. Not dangerous. Not particularly advanced. Just frustrating. 6 months after first contact, Station Commander Velthar had reluctantly concluded that the humans were the most frustrating species she had ever observed. Commander, Kutzmel's voice carried a note of uncertainty that had become increasingly common in recent weeks. I'm registering another population expansion at the primary settlement. Current estimates suggest nearly 6,000 individuals, with secondary settlements showing coordinated growth patterns. Any evidence of technological advancement? She asked, though she already knew the answer. Velthar studied the holographic displays that showed human population centers scattered across 3 continental zones. What had begun as simple tribal clusters had evolved into something that resembled early city-states, complete with agricultural surplus, specialized labor, and what appeared to be organized trade networks. Still primitive, still armed with bronze weapons and wooden tools, but growing at a rate that defied standard sociological models. Negative. Tool complexity remains consistent with subdevelopmental Phase 1 classifications. No evidence of advanced mathematics, complex chemistry, or astronomical study beyond basic calendar systems. That was the source of Velthar's frustration. The humans were building increasingly sophisticated societies using impossibly primitive technology. It was like watching insects construct architectural marvels using only instinct and determination. Impressive, but ultimately irrelevant to galactic affairs. What Velthar didn't know was that her comprehensive report was about to become the catalyst for the greatest strategic miscalculation in Kethvari military history. Maintain current monitoring protocols, she ordered, and prepare a comprehensive report for transmission to Fleet Command. High Commander Zephistel will want detailed analysis of human developmental patterns. High Commander Zephistel received the transmission from Observation Post Delta 7 while her fleet was engaged in the final phases of the Jekmar campaign. The rebels had proven more resourceful than anticipated, forcing the hegemony to commit additional vessels to what should have been a simple suppression operation. The report contained detailed biological scans, social structure analysis, and technological assessments that painted a picture of a species experiencing rapid but ultimately limited development. Interesting from an academic perspective, but hardly worthy of immediate concern. Humans. Population growth exceeding projections. Increased social organization. Still primitive. She reviewed Velthar's report during a brief lull in the fighting. Her primary attention focused on tactical deployments while her secondary consciousness processed the data from the distant observation post. High Commander, the document read, while human technological development remains minimal, their population growth and territorial expansion patterns suggest potential future complications. Current projections indicate planetary population could reach significant levels within several thousand years. Request guidance regarding preemptive intervention protocols. Zephistel's mandibles clicked with irritation. Morthic was brilliant at pattern analysis, but he had a tendency toward overcautiousness that bordered on paranoia. The humans were millennia away from achieving spaceflight capabilities, if they ever managed to advance beyond their current technological limitations, until she reached Analyst Morthek's addendum. However, the hegemony had not conquered half the galaxy by ignoring potential threats regardless of how remote they might seem. The pattern was uncomfortably consistent. Advanced civilizations rarely posed significant challenges. Their technologies and social structures could be analyzed, understood, and countered through conventional military doctrine. The serious problems arose from species that developed in unexpected ways, following evolutionary paths that defied standard models. She activated her personal communication system and linked directly to the Crimson Orthodoxy's xenological database. Within moments, she was reviewing case studies of species that had caused unexpected problems for hegemony expansion efforts. Communications, she ordered, prepare a priority transmission to Observation Post Delta 7. New mission parameters. Station Commander Velthor is authorized to conduct limited intervention operations. Objective: test human response capabilities and assess potential threat levels. The humans were demonstrating exactly that kind of anomalous development. Zephistel made her decision with the cold calculation that had earned her command rank. Intervention type. High Commander? Surgical strike. Single settlement. Minimal force application. Objective is to measure human tactical response, organizational capabilities, and potential for coordinated resistance. Standard probe and assess protocols. Zephistel considered. Full military assault would provide definitive answers about human capabilities, but it would also violate hegemony protocols regarding subdevelopmental species. However, limited testing operations fell within acceptable parameters for threat assessment. As the communication beam raced across the void toward Observation Post Delta 7, Zephistel returned her attention to the Jekmar campaign. The human situation would be resolved within days, a minor footnote in her service record that would provide useful data for future xenological studies. She had no way of knowing that her limited intervention order would soon become known throughout the galaxy as the beginning of the human war. Understood, High Commander. Transmission prepared for Priority Channel Alpha. The attack came at dawn when the mists rose from the river valleys and the settlement of Ironwood was beginning its daily routines. Marcus Blackthorne was inspecting the eastern defensive positions when Elena Voss materialized beside him with the silent grace that had made her the Confederation's most feared scout. "Something comes," she whispered, her words barely audible over the morning wind. "From the sky. Minutes. Maybe less. It feels—" She paused, searching for words to describe sensations that had no precedent in human experience, like death riding silver wings. Marcus followed her gaze upward, where the brightening sky revealed nothing unusual, but he had learned to trust Elena's instincts over his own direct observations. "How long?" Then the sky split open. The Ironwood Confederation had been preparing for this moment for months. Marcus raised the horn that hung at his belt and blew 3 sharp blasts, the signal for immediate defensive positions. Throughout the settlement, the response was instantaneous. Children vanished into concealed shelters, while warriors moved with practiced efficiency to predetermined stations. As it settled into the cleared area beyond the settlement's walls, Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. Whatever intelligence had sent this craft possessed technology so advanced that humanity's bronze weapons and wooden shields seemed almost laughable in comparison. What descended from the morning clouds defied every assumption about natural law that governed human understanding. The object was roughly triangular, perhaps 50 meters at its widest point, and composed of material that seemed to drink light while simultaneously reflecting it in patterns that hurt to observe directly. It moved without visible propulsion, descending with the controlled grace of a falling leaf despite its obvious mass. Almost. A section of the craft's hull simply ceased to exist, revealing an opening through which emerged beings that were obviously not human. They moved on multiple legs with insectoid precision, while additional limbs manipulated devices that had no analog in human experience. When they communicated, their voices carried harmonic frequencies that suggested intelligence evolved from entirely different biological foundations. Marcus counted 12 of them, arranged in a formation that spoke of military training and tactical awareness. They were armed with weapons that resembled crystalline sculptures more than conventional armaments. But something about their posture suggested lethal capability. "Weapons ready," he murmured to Elena, knowing she would pass the word through hand signals to other warriors positioned throughout the settlement's perimeter. Energy discharge vaporized a 10-meter section of wall, leaving behind only charred earth and the acrid smell of destruction beyond human comprehension. The aliens advanced toward Ironwood's main gate. With the confidence of beings who had never encountered meaningful resistance from primitive civilizations, their leader, distinguished by additional limb modifications and more elaborate harmonic vocalizations, raised one of its weapons and directed it toward the settlement's wooden palisades. The message was clear: surrender or face annihilation. The alien leader responded with a series of harmonic tones that gradually resolved into recognizable human language, a linguistic adaptation that spoke of advanced translation technology. "We greet you, Skywalkers," Marcus called out, his voice carrying the formal tones that tribal diplomacy demanded. "What brings you to our humble settlement?" Marcus Blackthorne stepped into the open gateway, his bronze-tipped spear held in a non-threatening position across his chest. Behind him, Elena and 6 other warriors maintained positions that appeared submissive while actually providing optimal tactical coverage. "You will demonstrate your technological capabilities. You will provide detailed information about your social organization. You will submit to biological scanning and cultural documentation. Primitive ones, you are being evaluated. Comply with our requirements and you will not be harmed. Resist, and your settlement will be eliminated." "What requirements do you place upon us?" Marcus asked, even as his mind calculated angles, distances, and tactical possibilities. In other words, Marcus realized, they wanted to catalog humanity like specimens in some vast xenological museum. The thought triggered something deep and primal in his warrior's soul, not just anger, but an almost feral rejection of the concept that humans could be reduced to mere data points. The alien leader gestured toward the vaporized section of wall. Your settlement will be deleted. Your species will be classified as hostile and marked for elimination. Choose quickly, primitive one. And if we refuse? Acceptable. You have 30 of your local time units to provide your response. May we have a moment to consider your offer? Marcus asked. Marcus felt Elena's slight movement behind him, a hand signal that indicated readiness among the hidden warriors. Around the settlement's perimeter, he knew that additional fighters were moving into positions that would remain invisible to alien sensors focused on obvious defensive structures. The reality was more complex. As the aliens withdrew to their craft to await humanity's decision, Marcus turned and walked back toward the settlement's center. To any observer, alien or human, he appeared to be consulting with tribal elders about terms of surrender. Status report, he whispered to Elena as they moved between buildings that had been carefully designed to provide concealment and tactical advantage. All positions ready. Thomas has 40 warriors positioned in concealed sites around the landing zone. Sarah's people have prepared the medical stations for casualties. Davos and Hendrik are standing by with the special equipment. Marcus nodded. The special equipment represented months of carefully hidden preparation, weapons and tools that pushed Bronze Age technology to its absolute limits, combined with tactical innovations that had never been tested in actual combat. And if we're wrong about their capabilities, he asked. We thank you for your offer, he said formally, but we must respectfully decline. Elena's fierce grin was answer enough. Then we die fighting, Chief. But we take some of them with us. 25 minutes later, Marcus Blackthorne walked back through the ruined gateway to deliver humanity's response to beings who commanded the power of stars. What happened next would be analyzed by xenological experts throughout the galaxy for generations to come. We choose freedom over submission, Marcus replied, and we'll fight for it with whatever weapons we possess. The alien leader's harmonic vocalizations carried clear tones of disbelief. You reject our terms? You choose extinction over documentation. The alien leader raised its energy weapon and fired directly at Marcus Blackthorne. The bolt of concentrated energy passed harmlessly through the space where the human leader should have been. Marcus had moved not with superhuman speed but with a combination of anticipation, tactical awareness and raw human reflexes that the aliens had never encountered from a primitive species. Before the alien could adjust its aim, Marcus was inside its weapon's optimal range. The bronze-tipped spear in his hands struck with surgical precision at joints that alien anatomy revealed as vulnerable points. Bronze cut through advanced materials like they were cloth, while human tactical training found weaknesses that alien designers had never anticipated. The leader fell, its harmonic death cry triggering immediate response from its companions. Human warriors emerged from concealment with weapons that had been designed specifically for close-quarters combat against technologically superior opponents. Bronze blades found gaps in alien armor, while wooden shields reinforced with techniques that pushed primitive engineering to its absolute limits, deflected energy bolts through combinations of material science and desperate ingenuity. But they found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to behave according to established tactical doctrine. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When the energy discharges ceased and the harmonic death cries faded into silence, 12 alien bodies lay scattered around their grounded craft. Human casualties numbered 3 dead and 8 wounded, losses that would have been considered miraculous against such technologically advanced opponents. The aliens possessed overwhelming technological advantages, but they had never faced an enemy that combined rational tactical planning with the absolutely irrational human willingness to charge directly into lethal weapons fire. But Marcus Blackthorne felt no celebration as he stood among the alien corpses. She appeared at his side, her bronze sword still dripping with alien blood. "Chief Elena," he called softly. Elena's expression grew grim as understanding dawned. "You think there are more of them?" This was a test, a probe to determine our capabilities. "Many more." Marcus gestured toward the alien craft, where emergency signals were undoubtedly transmitting data about the failed mission to whoever had sent it. And now they know we're dangerous. The real war was about to begin. The first battle of the human war was over. Station Commander Velthar watched the tactical recordings with growing disbelief. Her carefully planned probe mission had been intended to demonstrate human compliance characteristics under technological pressure. Standard doctrine called for primitive species to surrender immediately when faced with superior weapons and overwhelming tactical advantages. Instead, she was reviewing footage of Stone Age humans slaughtering a HFY tactical squad with bronze weapons and wooden shields. "Analysis," she demanded from Kixmo, though her voice carried none of its usual steady authority. Belthar studied the recorded images of alien bodies being dragged away from their landing site by human warriors. The humans had moved with military precision that suggested formal training and coordinated planning. Their weapons, while primitive by galactic standards, had been employed with masterful understanding of their capabilities and limitations. Tactical assessment indicates the humans demonstrated capabilities inconsistent with subdevelopmental Phase 1 classifications, Kilexmel replied, his harmonic tones reflecting his own confusion. Specifically, advanced tactical coordination, innovative weapons usage, and combat effectiveness that exceeds baseline projections by several orders of magnitude. Most disturbing, their tactical deployment had indicated prior knowledge of HFY anatomy and technology. They had known exactly where to strike for maximum effectiveness. "Commander?" "They were prepared for us," she whispered. The humans were prepared for contact with technologically advanced species. Their defensive positions, their weapons, their tactical responses, all of it was planned in advance. Velthar's mandibles clicked rapidly as she processed the implications. They've been expecting this encounter. The question that followed was too terrifying to voice. How had Stone Age primitives known that alien contact was imminent? "Prepare an emergency transmission to Fleet Command," Velthar ordered. "Priority Alpha 1. Classification, immediate threat assessment required." "Should I include tactical recommendations, Commander?" As the alien transmission raced across space toward the HFY fleet, Marcus Blackthorne stood in the center of Ironwood's Great Hall, addressing an assembly that included representatives from Allied settlements across 3 continental zones. Velthar looked again at the images of her dead colleagues being stripped of weapons and equipment by victorious human warriors. "Recommend immediate military intervention. Maximum force application. These humans are not what they appear to be." "The Skywalkers underestimated us," Marcus began, his voice carrying to every corner of the packed hall. "They believed we were simple primitives armed with sticks and stones. They learned otherwise." Word of the alien attack had spread through the Confederation's communication networks with unprecedented speed. Human runners, signal fires, and message systems that appeared primitive but functioned with remarkable efficiency had carried news of first contact to every Allied community within days. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly, but Marcus raised his hand for silence. "However, we must not make the error of overconfidence. What we faced was a small scouting force, perhaps a test of our capabilities. The real threat comes next, when they return in greater numbers with knowledge of our true capabilities." Old Hendrik coughed and spoke with the authority of someone who had spent decades pushing technological boundaries. "Their metal craft surpasses anything we've achieved, but the principles appear similar to advanced smithing techniques. Given time, we might develop similar capabilities." Elena Voss stepped forward, her arms carrying captured alien weapons that still defied human understanding. "The Starwalkers' tools are beyond our current knowledge, but they're not beyond our ability to learn. Their dead carried devices that might be adapted for our own use." Sarah Goldwood raised her hand. "Chief, the alien bodies we recovered show biological structures that suggest specific vulnerabilities. If we understand their anatomy, we can design weapons and tactics that exploit their weaknesses." "Time," Marcus emphasized, "which we may not have." Thomas Ironwill nodded grimly. "And their combat doctrine reveals assumptions about primitive species that we can turn against them. They expect surrender or chaotic resistance. They don't expect coordinated tactical response from supposedly primitive enemies." "Then we prepare," he decided. "We have proven that bronze and wood can kill Skywalkers when properly applied. Now we discover what else we can accomplish when necessity demands innovation." And they intended to win. Marcus looked around the assembly, seeing determination and calculation in faces that should have been showing fear and desperation. These people, His people were planning to fight a war against beings who could cross the void between stars. The Confederation's response to alien contact would become the foundation of humanity's greatest military victory. High Commander Zephistel received Station Commander Velthair's emergency transmission while her fleet was en route to the hegemony's forward operating base in the Kepler sector. The recorded tactical analysis of the failed probe mission played across her command center's holographic displays in stark, unforgiving detail. But first, they had to survive what was coming next. 12 Kithvari warriors, elite troops armed with energy weapons, and protected by advanced combat armor, had been killed by Stone Age primitives using bronze spears and wooden shields. "Analysis," she commanded, though her mind was already racing through tactical scenarios that challenged every assumption about human capabilities. The implications were staggering. "Threat reassessment?" she asked. "High Commander." Tactical analyst Mortic's voice carried tones of barely controlled alarm. "The human response patterns indicate preparation and tactical sophistication inconsistent with observed technological levels. They demonstrated knowledge of Kethvari anatomy, advanced understanding of energy weapon vulnerabilities, and combat coordination that suggests formal military training." Zephistel studied the recorded images of human warriors systematically stripping dead Kethvari of weapons and equipment. Their movements showed professional efficiency, while their weapons usage demonstrated masterful understanding of primitive tool capabilities. "Based on observed combat effectiveness, I classify humans as potential strategic-level threat. Their current technological limitations restrict immediate danger to local system only, but their tactical capabilities suggest rapid adaptation potential." Fleet deployment recommendations? Strategic level. In Kethvari military doctrine, that classification was reserved for species that posed genuine challenges to hegemony expansion efforts. It had been applied to fewer than 20 civilizations in galactic history. Zephistel nodded slowly. The Kethvari had conquered half the galaxy through overwhelming technological superiority combined with tactical doctrine that emphasized decisive application of force. Primitive species were typically brought into compliance through demonstration of superior capabilities, while more advanced civilizations required careful strategic planning. Morthic manipulated the tactical displays, showing star charts centered on the human system. Standard doctrine calls for massive force application against strategic-level threats. Recommend deployment of Third Fleet assets with planetary bombardment protocols if ground assault proves ineffective. The humans appeared to occupy a unique category, technologically primitive but tactically sophisticated. Standard doctrine provided limited guidance for such anomalous threats. 14 standard days. Zephistel studied the holographic representation of the blue-green world where a species of Stone Age primitives had just demonstrated the ability to kill Kethvari warriors in close combat. "Deploy advanced reconnaissance assets immediately. I want complete intelligence on human capabilities, population distributions and technological resources before fleet arrival. Estimated time to target." "High Commander." "Prepare Third Fleet for immediate departure," she ordered. Destination: Human System, Sector 707049. Mission parameters: complete pacification of indigenous populations with secondary objective of technological capture and analysis. As her orders were relayed throughout the Crimson Orthodoxy, Zephistel found herself considering possibilities that challenged her fundamental understanding of primitive species development. The humans had been prepared for contact with technologically advanced aliens. They had known how to fight Kethvari warriors effectively. They had possessed weapons and tactics specifically designed for close-quarters combat against energy weapons. The question that troubled her most was simple: how had Stone Age primitives acquired such knowledge? The answer would prove to be more terrifying than anything in Kethvari strategic doctrine. Marcus Blackthorn stood atop the highest watchtower in Ironwood, studying star charts that had been drawn on sheets of specially prepared hide. Around him, the settlement pulsed with activity that would have seemed impossible for a Bronze Age civilization. But the most significant changes were occurring beneath the surface. Smithies worked around the clock to forge weapons that pushed metallurgical techniques beyond known limits. Agricultural specialists preserved and stored food supplies capable of sustaining the population through extended siege conditions. and in workshops that appeared to house simple crafts, artisans labored over devices that incorporated alien technology recovered from the failed probe mission. Elena Voss climbed the watchtower stairs with the silent efficiency that marked her as the Confederation's master scout. Her expression carried news that Marcus had been expecting for days. "They come," she said simply. "How many?" "The sky burns with their lights. More ships than stars in the Hunter's Belt constellation." Elena's voice held steady, but Marcus could hear the underlying tension. "Thomas estimates at least 50 vessels, possibly more. They'll arrive within days." Marcus nodded, having anticipated this development since the moment alien blood had first stained Ironwood soil. The probe mission had been a test, one that humanity had passed by demonstrating capabilities their enemies had not expected. Now came the real examination. "Signal the Allied settlements," he ordered. "Activation Protocol 7. All non-combatants to prepared positions. All warriors to final staging areas." "Chief, are you certain?" "Protocol 7 commits us to total warfare. Once we implement those tactics, there's no possibility of negotiation or surrender." Elena's eyebrows rose. Protocol 7 was their most extreme contingency plan, a strategy they had developed for scenarios involving massive technological disadvantage against overwhelming enemy numbers. The Ironwood Confederation had spent months preparing for war against technologically superior enemies. Now they would discover whether human ingenuity could overcome impossible odds. Marcus looked out over the settlement that had become the heart of humanity's first interstellar war. Children played in courtyards that concealed weapons caches, while families gathered for meals around tables that could be quickly converted into defensive positions. Every building, every path, every garden had been designed with combat applications that remained invisible to casual observation. "Elena," Marcus said quietly, "the Skywalkers have already decided our fate. They return with enough force to burn our world from orbit. We face extinction or victory. There are no other options. Then we fight." As Elena descended to relay his orders, Marcus remained on the watchtower, watching the evening sky for signs of approaching alien vessels. In the distance, signal fires were already blooming across the landscape as Allied settlements received word that humanity's greatest test had begun. "Then we fight." Protocol 7 called for tactics that had never been attempted by any primitive civilization in galactic history. It was either the product of brilliant strategic thinking or complete desperation. Marcus Blackthorne suspected it was both. High Commander Zephysil materialized on the bridge of the Crimson Orthodoxy as her fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the human system. Around her 53 Kethvari warships, enough firepower to sterilize entire continents, took up positions that provided optimal firing solutions for planetary bombardment. "Human settlements detected across 3 continental zones," reported tactical analyst Morthek. "Primary concentration remains at coordinates confirmed during initial reconnaissance. Population estimates suggest approximately 40,000 individuals dispersed among multiple fortified positions, 40,000 primitives armed with bronze weapons and wooden shields, against 53 starships carrying weapons that could split mountains." "Sensor sweep," she commanded. "It should have been no contest. Long-range scans detect no significant technological advancement since our last intelligence update," continued Mortek. "Humans maintain primitive metallurgy, basic agriculture, and simple defensive structures. No evidence of aerospace capability or advanced weaponry." Zephysil studied the holographic displays showing human settlements scattered across the planet's surface. Their positions demonstrated tactical awareness, situated to provide mutual support while controlling strategic resources and transportation routes. But their technology remained laughably primitive. "Threat assessment remains unchanged," she decided. "However, given their demonstrated combat capabilities, we will not underestimate their tactical response potential." "Recommended approach, High Commander," Zephysil considered. "Standard doctrine called for orbital bombardment to eliminate primitive threats quickly and efficiently. However, the humans had already proven they possessed knowledge that challenged conventional understanding of primitive species' capabilities. Force deployment size: better to gather intelligence first. Deploy ground forces to the primary settlement. Overwhelming numerical superiority. supported by orbital fire support. Capture surviving humans for interrogation regarding their tactical knowledge and cultural development. She had no way of knowing that she was about to participate in the most devastating military defeat in Kathavari history. 8,000 troops, advanced combat armor, energy weapons, full tactical support systems. Zephistol's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. These primitives demonstrated ability to kill individual Kathavari warriors in close combat. They will not survive contact with a full military assault. As landing craft began their descent toward the human world, Zephistol felt confident that the anomalous threat would be resolved within hours. Marcus Blackthorne watched the landing from his position in the tree line surrounding Ironwood, where 3,000 human warriors waited in concealment that had been planned for this exact scenario. Around him, the Confederation's finest fighters maintained positions that would have been invisible to any conventional surveillance. The invasion began at dawn as 8,000 alien warriors descended from the sky in craft that moved like silver teardrops through the morning mist. The aliens deployed with military precision that spoke of countless similar operations against primitive worlds. Their formation provided overlapping fields of fire while maintaining tactical flexibility for rapid advancement or defensive positions. Energy weapons swept potential threat zones with mechanical efficiency. They were professional, experienced, and equipped with technology that could level cities. "Signal Henrik," he whispered to the runner positioned beside him. They were also making exactly the mistakes Marcus had hoped they would make. The young warrior, one of dozens who carried messages with speed and stealth that challenged the best alien communication systems, vanished into the underbrush. Within minutes, his signal would trigger events that had been months in the planning. The aliens advanced toward Ironwood with confidence born of technological superiority. Their leaders surveyed the primitive settlement's wooden palisades and bronze-tipped spears with obvious dismissal. Energy weapons charged for what would undoubtedly be a brief and decisive engagement. Then the ground beneath their feet exploded. Months of careful preparation had converted the approaches to Ironwood into the galaxy's most sophisticated primitive minefield. Hidden chambers filled with materials that combined alien technology with human innovation created explosions that caught the Kathavari completely off guard. The Battle of Ironwood lasted 14 hours. When the energy weapons finally fell silent and the last harmonic death cry faded into the afternoon air, 8,000 Kathavari warriors lay dead among the trees and fields surrounding the human settlement. Human casualties numbered fewer than 400. But even as Marcus Blackthorne surveyed the battlefield where bronze and wood had triumphed over energy and advanced armor, his mind was already focused on the greater challenge that awaited above. The alien ships in orbit possessed weapons that could destroy his world from space. Victory on the ground meant nothing if the Skywalkers decided to burn humanity's cities from orbit. "Elena," he called. She appeared beside him, her bronze armor stained with alien blood but her eyes bright with the fierce joy of victory against impossible odds. "Chief," Phase 2 signal all allied settlements. "It's time to show them what else we've learned." High Commander Zephistol stared at the tactical displays with growing disbelief. "Analysis," she demanded, though her voice carried none of its usual authority. 8,000 Kathavari warriors, an entire invasion force equipped with the most advanced weapons in galactic civilization, had been annihilated by Stone Age primitives using bronze spears and wooden shields. The defeat was not just impossible. It was incomprehensible. The humans demonstrated tactical capabilities that exceed all previous assessments. Morthak replied, his harmonic tones reflecting his own confusion. Their defensive preparations included sophisticated engineering, coordinated explosives deployment, and combat coordination that suggests formal military training at levels we associate with advanced civilizations. Zephistol reviewed the recorded images of human warriors systematically stripping alien technology from the battlefield. Their movements showed professional efficiency that challenged every assumption about primitive species' capabilities. "How?" she whispered. It was Sensor Operator Kicksmell who provided the answer that would haunt Kathavari strategic planning for generations. "High Commander, long-range analysis of human settlements reveals architectural and organizational patterns that suggest specific preparation for contact with technologically advanced species." "Explain." The implications crashed through Zephistol's strategic thinking, like a physical blow. The humans hadn't stumbled into effective tactics through luck or desperation. They had been deliberately preparing for war against the Kethvari. Their defensive structures, their weapons, their tactical deployments, all of it appears designed for warfare against opponents possessing enemy weapons and advanced technology. They have been planning for this conflict for an extended period. That's impossible, she said. They lack the technology for space observation. They have no communication with off-world intelligence sources. How could they have knowledge of our capabilities? High Commander. The communications officer's harmonic cry carried notes of pure panic. Emergency transmission from Observation Post Delta 7. The station is under attack. The question hung in the command center like smoke from a funeral pyre. Around her Kethvari, officers struggled with tactical analysis that challenged their fundamental understanding of primitive species development. Then new alarms began sounding. Zephysidil felt something cold settle in her combat center that had nothing to do with ship's environmental systems. The humans had not only defeated a full Kethvari invasion force, they were now conducting offensive operations against orbital installations. Humans? High Commander. They're using captured alien technology to assault the station. By whom? Display tactical analysis. They moved through zero-gravity environments with competence that suggested training. They employed energy weapons with efficiency that implied prior experience. And they coordinated their assault with tactical sophistication that belonged to advanced civilizations, not Stone Age primitives. The holographic viewer revealed images that redefined impossible. Human warriors, still armed primarily with bronze weapons and wearing primitive armor, were conducting coordinated assault operations against a Kethvari space station using captured alien technology and tactics that demonstrated understanding of advanced military doctrine. How are they getting to the station? Zephysidil demanded. Unknown, High Commander. No human vessels detected on long-range sensors. No evidence of aerospace technology in any of their settlements. Somehow, Stone Age primitives were conducting space-based military operations without possessing spacefaring technology. It was beyond impossible. It was a violation of physical law, unless, as her sensor operators bent to their tasks, Zephysidil found herself confronting a possibility that challenged everything she thought she understood about the species they had chosen to attack. Emergency deep scan, Zephysidil ordered. Maximum sensor resolution. I want to know everything about human civilization, their real civilization, not what they've been showing us. As her sensor operators bent to their tasks, Zephysidil found herself confronting a possibility that challenged everything she thought she understood about the species they had chosen to attack. What if the humans weren't primitive at all? The answer came 6 hours later, when deep penetration sensors finally revealed the truth about human civilization. Hidden beneath primitive settlements concealed by technology that bent electromagnetic radiation around itself, lay cities that defied every assumption about Stone Age development. Underground complexes stretched for kilometers, housing manufacturing facilities, research laboratories, and military installations that represented technological advancement far beyond Bronze Age capabilities. The wooden palisades and bronze weapons were camouflage. The humans had been hiding their true capabilities from alien observation for months, possibly years. While the Kethvari had been monitoring primitive settlements and Bronze Age technology, humanity had been developing advanced weapons, sophisticated manufacturing, and military tactics specifically designed for warfare against technologically superior enemies. By the void, Morthak whispered, his harmonic tones carrying awe and terror in equal measure. They've been planning this from the beginning. Zephysidil studied the sensor data that revealed the scope of human deception. Underground facilities showed technology that approached Kethvari standards in some areas while exceeding it in others. Their metallurgy had produced materials that combined primitive techniques with innovations that challenged galactic engineering knowledge. Their tactical doctrine demonstrated understanding of Kethvari military capabilities that suggested intelligence gathering far beyond anything Stone Age primitives should have possessed. How long? She asked. Based on construction analysis, High Commander. Human preparation for this conflict appears to have begun several years ago, possibly longer, several years before first contact. Before Kethvari observation posts had been established in the system, The humans had known they were coming. "Communications," Zephistel ordered, though her voice carried the flat tones of someone whose entire understanding of reality had just been shattered. "Prepare emergency transmission to Hegemony Central Command. Priority Alpha 0. Classification Strategic Threat Reassessment. Message content High Commander." Zephistel looked again at the tactical displays showing human underground cities, advanced manufacturing facilities, and military installations that had been hidden beneath the facade of primitive settlements. "Humans are not a primitive species. Repeat, humans are not a primitive species. They have been conducting deception operations against Cathvari intelligence gathering for extended periods. Current assessment: strategic level threat with potential for advanced level reclassification. Advanced level. In galactic military classification, that designation was reserved for species that posed existential threats to hegemony survival. Should I include tactical recommendations? Zephistel considered the question while studying images of human warriors conducting space-based operations with equipment they had supposedly never seen before. Recommend immediate fleet withdrawal and re-evaluation of all intelligence regarding human capabilities. These are not Stone Age primitives. We don't know what they are. Marcus Blackthorne stood in the command center of Installation Omega-7, a facility that had been hidden 3 kilometers beneath Ironwood for the past 2 years. Around him, displays showed real-time tactical information from human operations throughout the system, while communication arrays maintained contact with Allied installations on every continent. The primitive settlement above was indeed exactly what it appeared to be: a Bronze Age community with wooden walls and simple technology. But it was also the visible portion of humanity's most sophisticated military complex, designed and built specifically for warfare against technologically advanced alien invaders. "Status report," he requested from Elena, who was coordinating operations from a tactical station that would have impressed Cathvari military engineers. "Observation Post Delta 7 is under our control," she reported. 17 alien vessels have withdrawn to outer system positions. We've captured enough advanced technology to significantly upgrade our offensive capabilities. Marcus nodded, studying tactical displays that showed the positions of remaining Cathvari ships. The aliens had pulled back after discovering the true scope of human capabilities, but they still possessed overwhelming firepower advantages. And our orbital assets? Installation Sigma-3 reports all launches successful. We have 17 satellites in stable orbit, with full communication and sensor coverage of the entire system. Marcus allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. For 3 years, humanity had been preparing for this conflict. Underground facilities had manufactured advanced technology while surface settlements maintained the appearance of primitive development. Captured alien equipment from early observation missions had provided insights into Cathvari capabilities, while careful deception had ensured their enemies remained unaware of human advancement. The strategy had worked perfectly. "Sir," came a voice from the communications station. "We're receiving transmission from the alien fleet. They're requesting negotiation." Marcus raised his eyebrows. After losing an entire invasion force and discovering that their primitive enemies possessed advanced technology hidden beneath Bronze Age camouflage, the Cathvari wanted to talk. "Put them through." The voice that emerged from the communication system carried harmonic tones that suggested defeat and confusion in equal measure. "Human Commander, this is High Commander Zephistel of the Cathvari Third Fleet. We request parley to discuss terms for resolution of current hostilities." Marcus considered his response carefully. The Cathvari still possessed enough firepower to devastate human cities if they chose to deploy it. However, their withdrawal to outer system positions suggested they were no longer confident in their ability to achieve military victory. "High Commander Zephistel," he replied. "I am Marcus Blackthorne, Commander of the Ironwood Defense Confederation. We are prepared to discuss terms. We underestimated your capabilities," the alien leader admitted, her harmonic tones carrying frequencies that suggested profound respect. "Your tactical deception was masterful. We wish to understand how Stone Age primitives developed such advanced capabilities." Marcus smiled grimly. "Perhaps, High Commander, that's the wrong question. Perhaps you should be asking why you assumed we were Stone Age primitives in the first place." The pause that followed stretched long enough for him to wonder if the communication link had been severed. "You were never primitive," Zephystill said finally. "The bronze weapons, the wooden buildings, the simple agriculture, it was all camouflage." "Partially correct," Marcus replied. "We are exactly what we appear to be, humans living in Bronze Age communities with primitive technology, but we're also more than that. We prepared for your arrival because we knew you would come. We developed tactics for fighting technologically superior enemies because we understood the threat you represented, and we succeeded because you made the fatal error of assuming that technological advancement and military capability are equivalent. How did you know we would come?" Marcus looked around the command center where human engineers operated equipment that blended primitive techniques with innovations that had never been seen before in galactic civilization. "Hi, Commander. Your species has been observing our world for over a year. Did you really believe we were too primitive to notice silver lights moving against the natural patterns of stars?" Another long pause. "What are your terms for peace?" Zephystill asked finally. Marcus considered the question while studying tactical displays that showed human defensive positions throughout the system. They had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. A primitive species had defeated a technologically advanced invasion force through tactical superiority and strategic deception. But the war was far from over. The Kithori represented only one threat among many that would emerge once word of this conflict spread through galactic civilization. "Our terms are simple," he replied. "Complete withdrawal of all Kathvari forces from this system, recognition of human territorial sovereignty, and formal agreement that your species will respect our right to develop according to our own choices. And in return?" Marcus smiled, thinking of the alien technology his people had captured, the tactical knowledge they had gained and the strategies they had developed for fighting enemies who commanded the power of stars. "In return, High Commander, we won't tell the rest of the galaxy how badly we defeated you." 6 months after the Battle of Ironwood, Marcus Blackthorne stood once again atop the watchtower that had become the symbol of humanity's first interstellar victory. Below him, the settlement continued its daily routines. Children played in courtyards, craftsmen worked bronze and wood, and farmers tended crops that had fed the Confederation through its greatest trial. To any observer, Ironwood remained exactly what it had always appeared to be: a primitive Bronze Age community living simple lives in a complex galaxy. The truth, as always, was more complicated. Hidden beneath the settlement, Installation Omega-7 had become the center of humanity's growing interstellar intelligence network. Captured alien technology provided insights into galactic civilization, while human innovations pushed the boundaries of what Bronze Age primitives could accomplish when necessity demanded greatness. "Chief!" Elena's voice came from behind him. She climbed the watchtower stairs with news that had become routine since the Kethvari withdrawal. "Another contact?" he asked. "Long-range sensors detect 3 ships approaching the system. Configuration matches the Jekmar Republic, based on intelligence provided by our former enemies." Elena's expression carried the grim satisfaction of someone who had helped forge humanity's reputation throughout known space. "They're requesting permission to establish trade relations." Marcus nodded. Word of humanity's victory against the Kethvari had spread through galactic civilization with predictable results. Species that had never heard of humans suddenly wanted to establish diplomatic contact with the primitives who had defeated one of the galaxy's most feared military forces. "Standard protocols," he ordered. "Maintain surface appearances while conducting negotiations through Installation Omega-7. Let them see bronze weapons and wooden tools while we demonstrate that human diplomatic capabilities match our military achievements." As Elena departed to coordinate humanity's latest diplomatic challenge, Marcus remained on the watchtower, contemplating the future that stretched ahead of his people. The galaxy had learned that Stone Age humans possessed capabilities that defied conventional understanding of primitive species development. Some civilizations would respond with curiosity and respect. Others would see opportunity or threat. But all of them would remember the lesson of the Kethvari Third Fleet. Never underestimate Stone Age humans. Because sometimes, the most dangerous enemies are the ones who let you believe they're harmless. In the distance, signal fires bloomed across the landscape as Allied settlements received word of the approaching alien vessels. The Ironwood Confederation was ready for whatever came next. After all, they had been preparing for challenges like this since the day they looked up at moving stars and decided that primitive humans deserved a place among the powers that ruled the galaxy. They had earned that place with bronze spears and wooden shields, and they intended to keep it the same way.